All right, if you look over here, you'll see other bases of Chilean meals. Now, whether or not they're original to the site is kind of hit or miss because there's not really much records from the time. The reason for that is John Reed was actually illiterate. He could not read or write. Because of that, he didn't really keep accurate records of either who worked at his mine, how much gold was pulled out, so we're not 100% sure of how much he actually made from this venture. I will mention though, John Reed had 7 kids and 56 grandchildren. All of them could read and write by the time he passed away, so he did spend his money at least on his family. I will mention also, we can't really see the stamp mill today, but we do have a video online on our YouTube channel called Reed Gold Mine. We have videos of the stamp mill, of other parts of our site that you can see as well with explanations from our site manager. All those videos are found online, and if you have any questions, you can always come visit us and ask us directly.
56 children?
Grandchildren.
Grandchildren, okay.
Yes, yes, 7 kids and 56 grandchildren.
Whew, but hey, he at least tried to get them to read and write.
Yes, so he spent his money on his family. I will mention though, he did not like mining. He actually hated it. He was a farmer. He loved farming almost more than his family. So when he was alive, they only operated the mine during the winter months because you couldn't grow food in the winter. During the rest of the year, he used that labor for his farm. Later on, when he passed away, of course, they switched to a more yearly operation when they could. But when he was alive, it was mostly for the winter months. So we're looking at like November to maybe March.
And again, this is just between the 1830s and 1850s, probably?
Yes, he passed away in 1845. So for at least the underground portion, it was 1830s to 1845 roughly. For the above ground, it was only during the winter again for panning and stuff. But it was also not just because of the farming aspect, but our creek here is seasonal. So during the spring and summer, it dries out unless there's heavy rain. So you can't really pan without water. During the winter, it gets up to about 6 to 8 inches of water itself, which is also how Conrad was able to fish at the time.
Did he probably hire any women or anything to work the site?
Hired women, we're not sure with records. His family did help, his wife, his daughters. Most women would be relegated to above ground work. So they'd either pan for gold or use what's called log rockers or crater rockers. We have videos of that online as well, where they're basically bigger versions of a pan that go through more material quicker. So women and children would be above ground working, still 12 hours a day, and they were paid a little bit less wage than the underground miners, but they still made quite a bit of money back then as well for the time period. Underground workers were mostly men. I will mention that if you're about 14 or 15 as a guy, you're technically an adult then, so you'd be working underground as well, and you were paid $1 a day for 12 hours of work.
Huh. So a lot of my 8th graders probably could be working back then, huh?
Yes, you've been working for years at that point, depending on where you work or live, like as a farmer. But underground work, you'd probably be underground for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Here, you got at least Sunday off every week.
No breaks, no lunch breaks? How did that work out?
So you would take a break when you can, but if you're not working, you're not making money. So theoretically, back then, if you're working above ground for at least panning and such, you have to be able to find at least a certain amount of gold a week to make it worth it for them hiring you. If you didn't pull out a certain amount of gold, you were most likely fired because you weren't making them any money. Same aspect for underground. If you weren't pulling out probably a certain amount of quartz at the time, they'd probably let you go at some point. They did eat lunch whenever they could, but for the most part back then, at that mindset, it was if they didn't work, they didn't make money and they couldn't survive. So they were more focused on working than necessarily other safety concerns or eating at the time.